Hello again, everybody. This is Rusty, aka William Robinson, aka Dr. Robinson, and I am the Blues Doctor. This is my podcast, The Blues Doctor Recommends, and we're glad you're here today. You know, we're really into fall now. It's been cold a time or two, or cold by Gulf Coast standards. But man, Thanksgiving is right around the corner. Can you believe that? Thanksgiving? Boy, the year is going to be gone before we know it. Any rate, please share, make comments, hit subscribe, ring the bell, all of those things, and we'll get going. This week on the calendar, I wanted to call to your attention a couple of dates in November. The first was November 13th, 1949, and that was the birthday of Toy Caldwell, the guitarist and founder of the Marshall Tucker Band. And the second one was 11/9/49, which was the birthday of his brother, Tommy Caldwell, who was the bassist and also founder of the band. So they were about 2 years apart. They're both gone now, sadly, but the band they started incorporated a mix of rock and country and blues and even jazz in a way that nobody has really done before or since. So I wanted to talk about them a little bit today. Older brother Toy joined the Marine Corps in 1966 and went to Vietnam where he was wounded. He was evacuated, but he wanted to go back to his unit, so he did and spent the rest of his time there, even though he could have opted out of being sent back and just been discharged. Anyway, after the Marines, he formed a band with some of his high school buddies, some of whom had also been in the military, and eventually came to include his brother, younger brother Tommy. This group became the Marshall Tucker Band, which went on to sell 30-something million records. Sadly, Toy died of heart disease and pneumonia in 1993, although perhaps even sadder was the fact that his younger brother Toy died in 1980 of a freak car accident. And while the Marshall Tucker Band sold lots of records and were very popular in their day, they were probably more important for the influence they've had on a lot of performers currently, particularly country performers. Many current country performers credited the Marshall Tucker Band with persuading them even to pick up an electric guitar, which was not a common thing back in the 1970s or 80s. And if you listen to almost any Marshall Tucker album today that was recorded back in the 70s, you could be forgiven for thinking you were listening to country radio, modern country radio. And they were one of my absolute favorites as well. I think I saw them play live 3-4 times, maybe, something like that. And I am hardly the musical genius that either Toy or his brother Tommy were, but this is my version of one of their songs and to honor them.
Take a freight train down at the station, Lord. I don't care where it goes. Gonna climb a mountain, the highest mountain, jump off, nobody gonna know. Can't you see? Oh, can't you see what that woman, Lord, she been doing to me? Can't you see? Can't you see what that woman, she been doing to me?
R.I.P. Toy and Tommy Caldwell. For our medicine segment today, I wanted to let you know about an announcement I heard from the FDA recently. In fact, on November 10th, 2025, the FDA announced it's working with healthcare companies to update the black box warnings currently on hormone replacement therapy products to remove the risks for cardiovascular disease, breast cancer, and probably dementia, and to add the FDA's recommendation of starting HRT within 10 years of starting menopause or before age 60. Now, this is important because it demonstrates how far the medical community has come in its understanding of HRT or hormone replacement therapy, particularly the estrogen component. If you look back to 1991, you'll find there was a study published that year by a group that called itself the Women's Health Initiative. And this was a very large study, tens of thousands of women that took either hormone replacement therapy, estrogen, or a placebo, and they were followed for some period of time to determine the risk of a lot of different things. At any rate, the conclusions of that study were interesting and controversial. First off, they reported that there was an increased risk of breast cancer in the women who took estrogen for hormonal replacement. Also, uterine cancer. In addition, the study reported that it did not reduce the risk of heart disease, which a number of people, including physicians, had believed in prior to that. So, as you might guess, after the Women's Health Initiative study, the use of HRT dropped dramatically and really hasn't changed that much since then. Here's what changed the thinking of the FDA on this. To quote Dr. Jan Schifrin, MD, who is the director of Midlife Women's Health Center at Mass General Hospital and professor of obstetrics and gynecology at Harvard Medical School, she said, these warnings were added after completion of the Women's Health Initiative trial in 1991 of hormone therapy, demonstrating these risks in women randomized to have hormone therapy or a placebo. The average age of women in the WHI trial was 63, and later analyses of this study showed that for women in WHI under age 60 or within 10 years of menopause, the balance of risks and benefits was much more favorable. In other words, for younger women, that is under age 60, who have been in menopause for less than 10 years, the risk of cancer or heart disease was not increased anywhere near as much. So, I can agree with and support the FDA's decision in this case. The risks will still be on the package insert, which goes inside the box, but that is considered much less worrisome or ominous, I guess, than a black box warning. So, HRT is reasonable in symptomatic postmenopausal women, and I expect the use of hormone therapy in this group will increase in the coming months. I was looking back at the analytics for the channel recently, and I saw that the two most popular episodes thus far have been those that included so-called top 10 segments, including one which was called Top 10 Myths Around Lung Cancer, and the other one was the Top 10 Bigfoot Incidents. Then I started looking back through the comments through a number of different episodes, and I saw that several people had asked why I had not included anything recently about professional wrestling. And that's correct. I haven't done that in a while. So I decided to combine those two, although maybe with a bit of a twist. Instead of a top 10, we're going to use the Mount Rushmore gimmick, which seems to be very popular these days. Having said that, for our high strangeness segment this week, we'll present my Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling. And this will be my personal favorites, not necessarily the most popular or the biggest money makers. Also, I know some people will raise an eyebrow over inclusion of wrestling as high strangeness. I figured, okay, well, wrestling has been sort of a smaller niche pursuit for most of its existence. In other words, it's out of the mainstream. And by that definition, I think it can be acknowledged as a part of high strangeness. Anyway, so here we go. My Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling, and this is in no particular order. First, Jerry the King Lawler. This was easy for me. I grew up watching Memphis wrestling on Saturday mornings on TV and Monday nights in the Mid-South Coliseum, and the King was at the center of it all. He can do it all. He's a terrific worker in the ring. He does tremendous promos. He's an outstanding color man at the desk with Jim Ross during wrestling's most popular era in the WWF. He was even an owner and booker of the Memphis wrestling promotion, which survived longer than any of the other major territories after the WWF and WCW went national. It's an easy choice for me and probably for anybody else from Memphis. Second, Nature Boy Ric Flair. I didn't get to see Rick until the mid 1980s on WTBS on cable TV, but I was captivated immediately. When he came out to the interview desk each week with the expensive suits and the alligator shoes and the Rolex watches and the limos and the girls, man, the whole gig was really something special. What a fabulous gimmick that was. Many people have called Rick, the greatest of all time from bell to bell in the ring. I don't know that I would go quite that far, but he was certainly very good and deserves a place on my Mount Rushmore. Third, the legendary Terry Funk, the pride of Amarillo, Texas. Has there been any other wrestler that worked at the top of the card for as many decades as Terry Funk did? He could do it all. He was a traditional NWA world champion in the 1970s. He went on to the 1980s to combine that with making mainstream feature films. Then in the 90s, he reintroduced himself as a hardcore wrestler. Terry Funk was over 50 years old when he did his first moonsault, which was unheard of at that time. Anyway, after that, he became a highly regarded elder statesman for the rest of his career and his life. He could work any style. His promos on the mic were both hilarious and disturbing all at the same time because you never knew what he was going to do. I got the chance to meet Terry when I lived in Amarillo, and you couldn't ask for a nicer guy. I'll put something up on the screen here to show something he wrote to me and my then 10-year-old son. Fourth, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. I've loved Randy ever since he first started working outlaw in the Tennessee, Kentucky area against the Memphis promotion in the 1970s. Even back then, his talent was obvious. He was clearly the star of that very small time promotion. Then he came to Memphis in the early 80s and started working with Jerry Lawler, and that's when his star really began to shine. He was signed away by the WWF in 1995, and the rest is history. I would encourage you to check out his early WWF promos with Gene Okerlund. They are just hilarious. Fascinating how good they both were together. And what an athlete. I still think his match with Ricky Steamboat was the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. So there you have it, my Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling. Please tell me who your Mount Rushmore of wrestling might be, and leave it for us in the comments, and I'll try to share it with us on one of the upcoming shows.
Rock me all night long. I want you to rock me, mama. Just like a Cadillac and over. Come on, Joe.
I messed it up during the original recording process and put the wrong song label on this part. So I know we were talking about the Marshall Tucker Band earlier, but this song was actually the one I wanted to include, and this was by the Allman Brothers Band, and this is a version by a group of local musicians in New Orleans. Hope you enjoy it. Man, what a fun song that is. I can't remember the singer in this clip, unfortunately, but he was clearly having a lot of fun with it. And remember, we still have our Blues Doctor Recommends t-shirts available. Top quality, 100% cotton Hanes unisex t-shirts. And it's got this cool logo on the front that you see in our podcast each week. You see this cool dude here. Does that kind of look like me? I don't know. whether it does or not, you can still get this t-shirt from us for $25. That's right. You can't go wrong with that. We are limited to Venmo right now. We also only have the colors of navy, black, and gray, and they're only in limited sizes. But please let us know if you're interested, and I will get back to you and give you our Venmo information. And that's about all we had for now. Again, if you liked a particular segment of the show today, please let me know in the comments, and we'll try to include more like it in shows in the future. Anyway, as I usually say at this point, please watch next week's podcast. Okay? See you later.